Hello, my name is Alan Eglinton. I'm a British visual artist. I moved to France when I was 10. I moved there with my family and I lived there for 26 years. First I studied film in Montpellier in the south of France because I wanted to become a filmmaker. And then I became very interested in photography and I studied at the French National School of Photography in Arles for 3 years. Upon graduating, I met my wife, who is from South Korea. I met her in Paris and we moved from Paris to Scotland, where we lived for a couple of years. And my wife became pregnant pretty much around the same time as COVID and Brexit happened. So we decided to move to South Korea, and we have been running a photo bookstore and a publishing house called Same Dust in Seoul for the past 3 years. I would say that Super Limousin, so this book, is probably one of my earliest projects that combines photographs and texts. Super Limousin was my first school book when we moved to France in 1991, and I learned French, the basics of French, by cutting out pictures from local supermarket brochures and sticking them on the pages of this textbook. And the primary school teacher, she wrote the captions for the images in French with her beautiful handwriting. So I was able to learn simple French vocabulary by that means. And back then, I don't think I was consciously making an art project, of course. It was only many years later that I realized that this book has some creative and humoristic value. I'm currently working on 2 book projects these days. One is called Yes, No, Maybe. It's about my wedding proposal to my wife and her not immediately saying yes. And the other one is called Benz, B-E-N-Z. And it is about starting a new chapter in my life after moving to South Korea and becoming a father. Yes, No, Maybe is currently on show at Gallery the Sea in Seoul, and Benz is part of a group show at the Gyeongbuk University Art Museum in Daegu. My projects are mainly autobiographical, I would say. And they are often like journals or diaries to me. I guess I feel the need to tell my life experiences or some of the changes in my life, probably to make a bit more sense out of it all. But, maybe not too much sense, otherwise things can easily become boring. These days I'm listening a lot to Kendrick Lamar and Little Sims. Both are rappers. One is from the US and the other one is from the UK. They often tell their personal histories or troubles in a very honest and generous way in their songs. So their work and also autobiographies such as Iggy Pop's I Need More or Akira Kurosawa's Something Like an Autobiography have probably been of some influence on my work over the past few years. I often work with photographs and texts, short texts. Some of my photos I'm happy to leave by themselves as they are. However, on the other hand, other photos seem to call for a short text. That's just how things happen. I like short texts because I am not very good at writing pages and pages of text like a novelist. I'm interested in how a text or a graphic element, like letters or a doodle or a drawing, can maybe expand or contradict a photo. The book form has quite an important part in my artistic practice, since of course I manage a bookshop and a publishing imprint, but also because the book form allows me to shape my projects, to build them. Editing photos is already quite a demanding task for me, and if you add text to the equation, it seems to become even more complex. So the pages of a book seem to help me solve some of these editing or sequencing dilemmas. And I'm sure many people have already heard this before, but a book is definitely a very good way of getting your work out there into the world. You know, for me, it's important to take a few risks or to challenge myself when I'm making a new project. However, I see the Palbok residency a bit in the same way as the Arles Photo School, like a safe zone for taking even more risks than usual and for experimenting with other ways of making photographic images and writings. My initial residency project was to take photos on the outskirts of Jeonju, where the mountains begin. However, having ridden through the Palbok neighborhood several times on my bike, I spotted various subjects that I would like to photograph. For example, the new and the old factories, heaps of metal, the railway tracks, the overgrown riverbanks next to the highway, a couple of local football clubs, or maybe roadworks, for example. And I hope I can find a sense of beauty amongst these subjects, amongst the rust and the dust. And I'll be experimenting with cyanotype chemicals and with making contact prints using digital transparencies. Also, the space in which I will be doing my end of residency exhibition is surprisingly big. Maybe the size of the space will prompt me to make a few bigger pieces than the modestly sized works that I'm used to making normally. And I hope that my visits to cultural and historical venues in Jeonju can inform the project I'm going to make here. I'm looking forward to visiting the Jeonju Hanji Museum, for example. I would maybe like to work more and more with video projection, so projecting my photos, and also with working with spoken word, so maybe through live performances. I'm not sure. And I still haven't given up on the idea of making a short feature film. Lee Chang-dong, the Korean filmmaker, his movies have been a big source of inspiration lately and have given me another vision of this country through his bold screenplays.